Ask Reddit. Teachers, what's the craziest thing that you have seen? When I taught special education, I had a student with oral sensory issues. One morning, when I went to get him from the bus monitor said, "I think he has something in his mouth." This wasn't uncommon. He always had something in his mouth. However, this time it was a worm. A live worm. I can just imagine how much he loved the movement of that worm in his mouth, but luckily, we were able to get the worm out and set it free. I'm a drama teacher, but this happened when I was a student. I went to a pretty rough high school. Principal got airlifted one year when trying to break up a fight. Multiple shootings kind of place. I saw our school's police officer come into the classroom, ask a guy in the back of the class to stand up. He proceeded to search the kid and found multiple guns, some cracked pipes, and parceled out baggies of weed for sale. Then they walked to the corner of the classroom. The officer stood on a chair, reached up into those crappy square ceiling things, and pulled out like 30 pounds of weed. It just kept coming, brick by brick. How FKM lawn was that there? How did he get it there without destroying the entire ceiling? The questions just keep coming the more I think about how TF it went down. When I was in my first year teaching, I taught 4th grade in a Title I, incredibly rough school in the worst part of the county. One of my students strangled another student at recess, had her arms around her neck and everything. The poor girl locked in that hold was gasping for breath. If I hadn't rushed over and pulled them apart, I don't know how severely injured she would have been. The instigator only got a 1-day in school suspension for strangling another student and leaving bruises/scratches on her neck. There were multiple witnesses, and the strangling was unprovoked. I left that school not even a month later. There's a few things. One of the most insane was my 14-year student, I taught 8th grade, pulled up next to me in the parking lot as I was leaving. He was driving, and had a friend in the car with him. I asked him whose car it was, why was he driving, etc. He pulled away. I did let my co-worker know. She advised I tell the campus resource officer. 2 days later, the kid was leading the cops in a high-speed chase all over the neighborhood surrounding the campus, streamed his own arrest. We all saw this. He was tied to over 40 other car thefts in the area. Mostly BC, he posted he and his friends hotboxing in the many cars he stole. One about my teacher 10 years ago. One of my high school teachers had recently gotten into Parker and insisted that he was quite skilled at it. He had us move 5 desks into a line, and then he took a running start, aiming to leap over them. However, as he jumped, he caught his foot on the edge of the first desk, lost his balance, and ended up tumbling into a pile of desks, knocking 2 or 3 of them over in the process. It was pretty entertaining to watch. This was a catch in my school. One day, a kid brought in little blue pills his dad had hidden away. All the little monkeys thought it would be a great idea to take this unknown drug. Remember, they were about 13/14 years old, as it would make class much more fun. Turns out it was Viagra. Made the national news and everything. My first year teaching, I had a new student start in the middle of the year. On the first day, I turned around to write something on the board, and when I turned back, she had cut her arms up with a circle compass. I got the school nurse, and then never saw her again. I had a class of girls be all quiet after popping back in. They all looked at one kid. Finally, the toughest girl in the grade looked and quietly said, she, the girl, stood up on the table, points to her crotch, and yelled out, "Lick my kitty." As a first-year teacher, this blew my mind. There was a lot of trauma this girl had. I worked as a teacher in a juvenile prison, so I've seen LOT. Here are 2 crazy stories. One was 2 kids starting an absolute brawl in class with me completely in the middle. Keep in mind, I'm a 5'4", 115 pounds woman. These kids were 16-year-old boys, close to 6 feet, and probably 150 plus pounds. They were throwing punches inches from my face. As a teacher, we are trained to not break them up and just get security, but I was trapped in the middle and could not get out. Screamed for help, but security was nowhere to be found, obviously, so it lasted a solid 2 minutes. We were all covered in blood. It was a wild Tuesday morning. Second story, I had a student that would write me notes daily about how he was going to murder me and my entire family in very specific detail. A student put a dead squirrel in the cafeteria microwave and set it to who knows how long. Cleared the cafeteria of 2,000 plus students within minutes. I was excited to buy an actual newspaper from London, dated not 1666, that mentioned both the Great Fire and the Plague. When sharing photocopies in my world history class, all 4 periods had a kid ask if they had to read it, or if it was going to be on the test. I had one baby let the intrusive thoughts win about what a urinal cake tastes like. I had a door licker one year. He literally licked doorknobs. All the time. Kid was never sick all year. There's a lot more, but I think my brain is trying to forget it all at the moment for reasons. 5-year-old asked me if I kill animals. He said he asked me if I do that because he wanted to start doing that too. Then proceeded to tell me that he wants to kill animals because he isn't big enough to kill people yet. I reported the comments, called his parents in for a conference, and they laughed it off. Like, literally laughed at me. Nothing was done about it, and I made a mental note to remember that kid's name because I'm very sure I'll see him on the news one day. As a joke, some dude in the school ordered something like 20 pizzas and had them sent to a classroom where final year students were taking their A-levels. Ended up in a massive argument between the principal and the pizza delivery guy in the middle of the courtyard. I excused a student from our one-on-one session, and he took off running down the hallway, cutting off one of the 3rd grade teachers as he did. She clicked her tongue and said he shouldn't run in the hall like that. I gestured at his retreating back and invited her to tell him that as we watch him round the corner out of sight. But just as he disappears, another student I didn't recognize took the same corner on the northbound. Running wide open, he suddenly leapt and performed a perfect 10/10 dive headfirst into the big blue recycling bin, his light-up sneakers immediately hidden by the lid dropping closed behind him. The 3rd grade teacher turned to me, eyes wide and mouth open in surprise. But before she can say anything, I threw up my hands and proclaimed, "Not my monkey, not my circus. If anyone's missing a kid, tell them to check recycling." These were 10-year-olds. What is the craziest thing you've seen at your school? Feel free to share in the comments below. Please consider subscribing and liking for more daily content.